The galaxy never forgot the day humanity was judged, not because humans begged for mercy, not because Earth fought until its last breath, but because in the silent chamber of the Galactic Council, one human ambassador smiled. Thousands of alien delegates watched in confusion as the verdict echoed across the stars. By unanimous decree of the Galactic Council, the species known as humanity is hereby stripped of all rights, expelled from civilized space, and forever banished beyond the Galactic Rim. The chamber erupted in applause. Some celebrated, some laughed. Others quietly looked away, sensing that history had just taken a dangerous turn. The human ambassador slowly stood. His name was Ambassador Elias Kane. His uniform was torn from weeks of political attacks, and his face carried the exhaustion of a man who had spent years trying to convince an entire galaxy that humanity deserved a place among the stars. He looked around the circular hall. Thousands of eyes stared back, feathered diplomats from the Avarii, towering insectoid generals of the Car, the crystalline scholars of Alis, the cold, emotionless representatives of the Synth Dominion. Every civilization that mattered had gathered. Every civilization had voted. Every civilization had condemned Earth. Elias adjusted his jacket. Instead of pleading, he smiled, a genuine smile. "You've made your decision," he said calmly. The applause faded. "And one day." He paused just long enough for every translator drone to repeat his words. "You'll remember today as the greatest mistake your civilizations ever made." Silence. The council speaker laughed first. Soon the entire chamber joined him. The image of Earth's final representative disappeared from every screen in the galaxy. The council believed the matter was settled. Humanity would disappear into the darkness beyond explored space, never to return. The exile fleet departed 3 months later. More than 12,000 civilian and military vessels gathered around Earth. Billions of people watched from every continent. There were no celebrations, no speeches promising revenge, only quiet determination. Children stood beside parents. Scientists worked beside soldiers. Farmers boarded colony ships alongside engineers. Humanity wasn't escaping. It was surviving. The old blue planet slowly disappeared behind them as the fleet accelerated toward the uncharted void beyond the Galactic Rim. Behind them, the galaxy celebrated. Trade routes reopened. Council politicians congratulated one another. News broadcasts declared the human problem solved forever. No one bothered tracking the exile fleet. Why would they? Nothing existed beyond the rim. No habitable worlds, no stable stars, no future, only darkness. The journey lasted decades. Generations were born aboard enormous arc ships. Children learned about Earth through holograms and stories. Most would never see the homeworld. Food became scarce. Resources dwindled. Ships broke apart. Some captains turned back. None ever returned. But humanity pressed onward. Every hardship forced innovation. Recycling systems became nearly perfect. Fusion technology doubled in efficiency. Artificial gravity consumed almost no power. Medical science extended human lifespans beyond 2 centuries. Necessity became the greatest teacher humanity had ever known. Then, they found it. Not a single planet, an entire hidden region. Beyond the rim lay something impossible, a cluster of thousands of ancient stars hidden behind enormous gravitational distortions. The region had been invisible to every known civilization. Ancient alien megastructures drifted between stars. Gigantic orbital rings surrounded forgotten suns. Derelict stations, older than recorded galactic history, floated silently through space. Human scientists could barely believe what they were seeing. Someone, long before the Galactic Council existed, had built an empire here, and then vanished. Captain Amelia Rhodes stepped onto one of the abandoned stations. Dust covered everything. Machines slept beneath centuries of silence. Towering halls stretched for kilometers. Symbols unlike any known language glowed faintly beneath the walls. Then, the station woke up. Lights flickered, power surged, ancient machines recognized new life, and artificial intelligence, untouched for millions of years, spoke. Successor species detected. The words echoed through every corridor. Authorization required. The human scientists exchanged nervous glances. Authorization? For what? Captain Rhodes stepped forward. We are humanity. Silence. The AI scanned every member of the expedition. Then, the impossible happened. Genetic compatibility confirmed. Every human froze. Compatibility, with an empire millions of years older than civilization itself. Doors the size of mountains slowly opened. Deep beneath the station, entire fleets waited. Thousands, no millions, of untouched warships rested inside colossal underground shipyards. Weapons unlike anything humanity had imagined. Power sources that ignored known physics. Artificial worlds capable of supporting billions. Factories able to construct entire fleets automatically. Libraries containing millions of years of scientific knowledge. Humanity hadn't found ruins. They had inherited an empire. Back inside the Council's territory. Centuries passed, then 500 years, then 800. Eventually, humanity became nothing more than a warning told to children. Obey the Council, or you'll end up like the humans. Historians declared humanity extinct. Maps removed Earth from official records. The Council expanded across nearly the entire galaxy. No rival remained. Peace became routine. Technology stagnated. Why innovate when no enemies existed? Military fleets shrank. Shipyards closed. Scientists focused on luxury instead of discovery. No one believed another great civilization could ever rise again. No one looked beyond the Rim. No one even remembered why the Rim had once inspired fear. Exactly 1,000 years after humanity's exile, a deep space listening station detected something impossible. Not one signal. Millions. The operator frowned. The readings made no sense. Entire sectors beyond the Rim had suddenly filled with energy signatures. Ship after ship. Fleet after fleet. The computer failed to calculate the total. Emergency alarms echoed through the station. Before anyone could report the discovery, every sensor screen went dark. A single transmission replaced them. The image showed a woman wearing unfamiliar black armor. Silver stars decorated her uniform. Behind her stretched an endless fleet, ships so enormous they dwarfed planets. Her eyes remained calm. Her voice never rose. This is High Chancellor Sophia Kane. We speak for the United Human Empire. We have returned. Every communication station across the galaxy received the same message simultaneously. The council chamber fell silent. The oldest historians looked at one another in horror. One whispered words no one had spoken for nearly 1,000 years. Humanity. Another transmission followed. The debt of exile has matured. We do not come seeking revenge. A pause. We come seeking justice. Then the screens revealed something that froze every civilization in place. The fleet behind Chancellor Kane continued beyond the horizon. Thousands, millions, perhaps billions of warships. No one could count them. The impossible had happened. Humanity had not survived exile. Humanity had conquered the unknown. And now, they were coming home. For 17 minutes, the Galactic Council did not speak. No delegate moved. No translator drones buzzed through the chamber. The only sound was the steady pulse of emergency alarms echoing across the capital world of Asterion. The image of High Chancellor Sophia Kane still floated above the central podium. Her expression had been calm, not triumphant, not angry, certain. That frightened the council more than any threat ever could. Finally, Council Speaker Zirel rose from his crystalline throne. This is impossible. The elderly Varkun diplomat stared at the tactical display. Our historians confirmed humanity's extinction centuries ago. One of the intelligence ministers hesitated before answering. Our historians confirmed. No such thing. The chamber turned toward him. They simply assumed extinction. Silence. Another minister cleared her throat. There were no probes beyond the Rim. No reconnaissance missions, no surveillance stations. We never looked. The realization settled over the council like cold iron. For 1,000 years they had celebrated the destruction of a civilization they had never bothered to verify. Thousands of light years beyond the Galactic Rim, the United Human Empire stretched across stars no council map had ever recorded. Where barren darkness was once expected, countless worlds now glowed with life. Artificial suns illuminated entire systems. Ring worlds wrapped around ancient stars. Orbital habitats drifted like necklaces of silver. Gigantic elevators connected planets to the heavens. There was no pollution, no hunger, no poverty. Every city shimmered with elegant architecture that blended nature with impossible engineering. Forests grew atop floating continents. Oceans rested inside colossal space habitats. Wildlife flourished alongside machines. Humanity had learned a lesson during exile. Never again would survival depend on a single world. Earth had become sacred. Not because it was their strongest planet, but because it was the place where humanity began. Every child visited Earth once during their education, not to worship it, to remember it, to understand what had been taken from their ancestors. At the center of the human empire floated the largest artificial structure ever constructed, the Citadel of Dawn. A city larger than some moons. Its inner chambers housed the Senate, the High Command, the Academy of Sciences, and the Archive of Memory, a living record of every human life since the Great Exile. High Chancellor Sophia Kane stood before a panoramic window overlooking thousands of warships assembling in perfect formation. Behind her, Admiral Marcus Idris entered quietly. The fleets are ready. Sophia nodded without turning. Status? First Fleet. Ready. Second? Ready. Exploration Fleet? Standing by. Medical Corps? Prepared. Colonization Fleet? Awaiting orders. She finally faced him. And the Ark Fleet? Marcus smiled faintly. They insisted on joining. Sophia raised an eyebrow. The civilians? They say they built this empire. They refuse to let the soldiers have all the glory. Sophia laughed softly. Typical humans. Unlike the militaries of old Earth, the human empire never separated science from defense. Every warship carried hospitals. Every battleship contained research laboratories. Every colony vessel could transform into emergency relief stations. Their philosophy had evolved over centuries. Strength existed to protect. Knowledge existed to advance. Power existed to prevent another exile. That philosophy had shaped every citizen. Every child learned engineering. Every student studied diplomacy. Every officer mastered history before commanding a single ship. Because ignorance had nearly destroyed humanity once before. Deep beneath the Citadel, an ancient intelligence watched. It had no name humans could pronounce. The first explorers had simply called it Custodian. Millions of years ago, it had served the civilization that built the hidden empire. When humanity arrived, it had spent decades studying them. Now it understood why its creators had chosen humans. Sophia entered the immense chamber. Columns of light stretched toward infinity. The custodian's voice resonated through the air. You prepare for war, Sophia answered calmly. I prepare for whatever awaits. You fear becoming like those who exiled you. I do. The ancient AI remained silent for several moments. My creators believed power always corrupts. Sophia folded her hands behind her back. Were they wrong? No. Then why give us their empire? Thousands of stars appeared inside the chamber. The custodian replayed recordings from humanity's first centuries in exile. Families sharing food during famine. Scientists sacrificing themselves to save failing colony ships. Children planting forests on dead worlds. Doctors refusing preferential treatment during epidemics. Soldiers carrying civilians before weapons. You were observed. For 1,000 years, when no one believed anyone was watching, Sophia stared silently. The AI continued. Empires reveal their nature when they believe they stand alone. You did not become monsters. You became guardians. Meanwhile, the Galactic Council descended into panic. Emergency meetings followed one another without pause. Military commanders demanded immediate mobilization. Industrial worlds restarted ancient shipyards. Recruitment campaigns flooded every communication network. But reality refused to cooperate. The Council had not fought a major war in nearly 600 years. Entire generations had never experienced combat. Most warships were outdated. Many admirals had earned their ranks through politics instead of battle. The mighty fleets that once dominated the galaxy had become ceremonial symbols. Beautiful, expensive, unprepared. General Croth of the Car Dominion slammed his armored fist onto the council table. "We strike first," a diplomat immediately objected. "Against millions of unknown warships? We cannot allow them to advance," another delegate interrupted. "We don't even know if they're hostile." Croth glared. "They returned with an armada. What more evidence do you require?" An elderly historian quietly spoke from the back of the chamber. "They warned us. Everyone turned. 1,000 years ago." "The ambassador. He said we would regret this day." No one answered, because everyone remembered the recording. Everyone remembered the smile. On the frontier, a council patrol encountered humanity for the first time. 3 aging cruisers emerged from hyperspace expecting pirates. Instead, they found an entire human fleet waiting. Hundreds of sleek black vessels floated silently. No weapons were aimed. No targeting systems activated. The human flagship transmitted first. "This is Exploration Fleet 7. You have entered territory claimed by the United Human Empire." The council captain swallowed. "We'd request diplomatic communication." "Granted." A young human officer appeared. She looked surprisingly relaxed. "Would you like assistance navigating the border?" The captain blinked. "You aren't attacking." The officer looked genuinely confused. "Why would we?" The council crew exchanged uncertain glances. One sensor operator whispered, "They've scanned every weakness in our ships. They could destroy us in seconds." Instead, the humans transmitted updated star charts, fuel coordinates, safe navigation routes, even warnings about dangerous stellar anomalies. When the patrol departed, no shots had been fired. The captain filed a report that stunned the council. They treated us like neighbors. Not everyone wanted peace. Far beyond the council's borders, hidden among dead systems, the pirate kingdoms watched events unfold with growing excitement. For centuries, they had preyed upon weak colonies. Corrupt officials secretly supplied them. Several council politicians profited from the chaos. Now, rumors spread. The humans possessed technology beyond imagination. If captured, it could make anyone ruler of the galaxy. The pirate king, known only as Drax, smiled as the reports reached his throne. "Prepare every fleet." One of his lieutenants frowned. "Against humanity." Drax laughed. "No, we'll let the council weaken them first. Then we'll steal whatever survives." He had no idea. The human empire had known about his organization for over 80 years, and they had already made plans. High Chancellor Sophia Kane stood before the assembled Senate. Millions watched the broadcast across human space. Our ancestors were cast into darkness. They answered hatred with determination. They answered exile with unity. They answered despair with hope. She paused. "The galaxy believes we have returned for revenge." Her gaze swept across the chamber. "They are wrong. We return because civilization has forgotten its purpose." She raised one hand. "We will defend the innocent. We will confront the guilty. And before this journey ends, the truth behind humanity's exile will finally be revealed." Far away, inside the archives of the old Galactic Council, a forgotten vault quietly unlocked itself for the first time in 1,000 years. Inside rested a classified recording, one that had never been shown to the public, one that proved humanity had never been exiled for being dangerous. They had been exiled because someone on the council feared what humanity would one day become. And that secret was about to ignite a war that would reshape the galaxy forever. Across the Galactic Council, one question echoed through every government, every military headquarters, and every news network. Why now? Why had humanity waited an entire millennium? If they possessed fleets capable of overwhelming the galaxy, Why? Hadn't they invaded centuries ago? The answer was simple. Humanity had never spent those 1,000 years preparing for war. They had spent them preparing never to repeat the mistakes of the civilizations that came before them. Within the archive of memory on the Citadel of Dawn, High Chancellor Sophia Kane stood before a gathering of young cadets. Behind her, a holographic image of old Earth slowly rotated. Blue oceans, green forests, a fragile world that had once stood alone beneath an ordinary yellow star. One cadet finally raised his hand. "Madam Chancellor, if the Council betrayed us, why don't we simply destroy them?" Sophia looked around the room before answering. "Because empires built on revenge eventually destroy themselves." She pointed toward Earth. "Our ancestors didn't survive exile by becoming monsters. They survived because they remembered who they were." The room remained silent. Power without restraint creates tyrants. Mercy without strength creates victims. Our duty is to stand between those two extremes. Meanwhile, inside the Galactic Council archives, a maintenance drone accidentally activated a forgotten security protocol. Massive vault doors groaned open. Dust, untouched for 1,000 years, drifted into the air. An elderly archivist froze. There, resting inside a crystal data chamber, was a recording marked with the highest level of secrecy. Authorized by the First High Council only, do not release. His hands trembled. Curiosity overcame fear. He inserted the archive crystal into an ancient projector. The recording began. 1,000 years earlier, the council chamber looked almost identical. But the faces were different. The species younger, the galaxy less crowded. Council Speaker Vorin addressed the assembly. "The Human Federation has exceeded every projection." A military advisor stepped forward. "They adapt faster than any known species. They reverse engineer technology within months. They cooperate across political divisions during crises. They willingly sacrifice individual gain for collective survival." Another delegate added quietly. "They are also the first species to establish peaceful relations with civilizations we considered impossible to negotiate with." The chamber fell silent. One senator finally voiced the fear many secretly shared. "If they continue developing, they will eventually surpass us." No one argued, because everyone knew it was true. Humanity's population was smaller, their territory was limited, but their rate of innovation frightened every major power. Then someone suggested the unthinkable. "Prevent it." The room became deathly quiet. Another delegate whispered, "We cannot justify genocide." "No, we don't need genocide. We simply remove them from history." Exile. A vote followed, not because humanity had committed a crime, not because Earth threatened the galaxy, but because they might one day become too powerful. The recording ended. The archivist collapsed into his chair. His breathing became uneven. The official history had been a lie for an entire millennium, within hours. Anonymous copies of the recording appeared across every communication network, every colony, every government, every civilian terminal. The truth spread faster than any censorship could contain. Across the galaxy, millions watched in disbelief. Families who had celebrated humanity's exile learned their ancestors had been deceived. Young students questioned everything they had been taught. Veterans lowered their medals in shame. Even members of the current council stared at the recording in horror. Many had never known. On the frontier, human exploration fleets continued their mission. Instead of invasion, they built hospitals. Damaged colonies received food. Pirate attacks mysteriously stopped. Medical ships arrived wherever disaster struck. Engineers repaired failing orbital stations free of charge. The galaxy had prepared for conquerors. Instead, they found protectors. News networks struggled to explain the contradiction. One famous journalist finally asked the question millions were thinking: if humans wanted revenge, why are they saving us? Because another enemy had already begun moving, far beyond civilized space. In the empty darkness between galaxies, ancient sensors awakened. Signals, countless signals, had finally reached something sleeping. The custodian detected them first. Its voice echoed through every chamber of the citadel. Warning, Sophia immediately entered the command center. What happened? A massive star map appeared. Hundreds of distant galaxies glowed. One slowly turned red. Custodian spoke again. My creators did not disappear. They fled. The room froze. Admiral Marcus frowned. Fled from what? The AI projected recordings older than recorded time. Entire galaxies burning, stars collapsing, planet-sized warships being torn apart. A black tide swallowing civilization after civilization. My creators called them the Devourers. Millions of years ago, the civilization that built the hidden empire had ruled thousands of galaxies. Their science seemed almost divine. Nothing challenged them. Until the Devourers arrived, they were not a single species. They were a living swarm. Machines, organic creatures, living weapons. Everything they consumed became part of them. Entire civilizations vanished. Eventually, the builders realized they could not win. So they hid their greatest legacy, the empire beyond the rim. Then they scattered, leaving behind one final instruction. Wait for a civilization worthy of inheriting what remained. Not the strongest, not the oldest, the wisest. Sophia slowly looked toward the stars. How long? Custodian answered. Approximately 9 months. 9 months until what? The Devourers reached this galaxy. Silence consumed the command center. Every officer understood. Humanity had not returned because they wanted revenge. They had returned because the galaxy needed to stand together at that very moment. Pirate King Drax launched his greatest assault. Thousands of pirate vessels emerged from hyperspace around an isolated human research station. He smiled as scanners identified only a handful of defenders. Easy victory. His fleet opened fire. Energy beams illuminated the darkness. The station never fired back. Instead, the nearby stars seemed to shimmer. Then space itself folded. Out of nothing, an entire human defense fleet emerged, not from hyperspace, not through warp. They simply appeared. Drax's smile vanished. One human battleship was larger than his entire flagship. A calm transmission echoed across every pirate vessel. This is your only warning. Surrender, Drax laughed. Attack, his fleet charged. The battle lasted 23 seconds. Human weapons disabled every pirate ship without destroying a single one. Engines failed. Weapons shut down. Life support remained untouched. Not one pirate died. Boarding teams arrested thousands. Medical crews immediately treated the wounded. One captured pirate stared in disbelief. You could have killed us. The human officer nodded. Yes. Then, why didn't you? Because justice is more useful than vengeance. Days later, the entire galaxy watched live as Pirate King Drax stood trial. Evidence linked dozens of corrupt council officials to centuries of piracy, secret bank accounts, illegal arms deals, political assassinations. The scandal shattered public trust. Governments collapsed. Corrupt senators were arrested by their own security forces. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Council began cleaning itself from within. Sophia watched the broadcasts quietly. Admiral Marcus approached. The galaxy is changing, she nodded. It has to. Marcus looked toward the stars. And the Devourers? Sophia's expression hardened. They don't know they're coming, the custodian interrupted. They know now. Every screen inside the command center flashed red. A transmission had arrived, not from the Council, not from the pirates, not from any known civilization. A deep, distorted voice echoed across the stars. Successor species identified. Inheritance confirmed. A pause, then the message that chilled every human present. Prepare yourselves. We have found you. Far beyond the edge of the galaxy, billions of crimson lights ignited in the darkness. For the first time in 1,000,000 years, the Devourers had chosen a new galaxy, and they were already on their way. For the first time in recorded history, the Galactic Council did not call a vote. There were no political speeches, no debates, no accusations, Only silence. The message from the Devourers had reached every inhabited world in the galaxy. Billions watched. The same horrifying images. A crimson tide stretching across intergalactic space, swallowing stars, leaving only darkness behind. Old rivalries suddenly seemed meaningless. Trade disputes, border conflicts, centuries of hatred. None of it mattered anymore. The galaxy had one enemy and one chance. High Chancellor Sophia Kane stood once again in the council chamber. The same hall where her ancestor, Ambassador Elias Kane, had been sentenced to exile exactly 1,000 years earlier. The room was full, but no one sat above anyone else. The grand throne of the council speaker had been removed. Every delegation stood on the same level. Sophia looked around the chamber. My ancestor stood here asking for trust. You answered with fear. No one interrupted. You feared humanity would become too powerful. She paused. You were right. Several delegates lowered their heads. We did become powerful. Her voice softened. But power alone has never defined humanity. She activated a hologram of Earth. This planet taught us something before we ever reached the stars. When storms come, people survive together. She looked directly at every representative. So today I offer not surrender, not revenge, a partnership. We either defend this galaxy together, or we disappear separately. One by one, representatives stepped forward. The Kar Dominion, the Ellis Collective, the Avari Republic, the Synth Dominion. Even civilizations that had fought each other for centuries placed their emblems beside Earth's. History was rewritten that day. The Galactic Council officially dissolved itself. In its place rose a new alliance, the Galactic Union. Its first charter contained only one sentence. No civilization shall ever again be judged by fear of what it might become. The months that followed became known as the Great Preparation. Human shipyards worked without rest. Ancient automated factories hidden beyond the rim awakened for the first time in millions of years. World after world transformed into production centers. Alien engineers and human scientists worked side by side. The Synth Dominion improved artificial intelligence. The Ellis designed energy shields capable of protecting entire planets. The Kar forged armor from neutron star alloys. Humanity shared technologies they had guarded for centuries, not because they had to, but because survival demanded trust. Military academies opened to every species. Mixed crews filled newly built fleets. Old enemies became squad mates. Children from different worlds studied together. The galaxy began to resemble what it could have been 1,000 years earlier. 9 months later. The first Devourer fleet entered the galaxy. They were unlike anything anyone had imagined. They did not travel in neat formations. They flowed through space like a living ocean. Planet-sized organisms drifted between stars. Mechanical tendrils wrapped around moons. Every destroyed ship was absorbed, rebuilt, and turned against its former allies. The swarm did not celebrate victory. It simply consumed. The Battle of the Outer Rim began. More than 12 million allied warships formed a defensive line. Behind them stood evacuation fleets carrying civilians toward protected systems. Sophia addressed every ship. This battle is not about glory. It is about buying time. If we stand today, our children will have a tomorrow. The answer came from millions of voices. Together, the Devourers attacked. The stars themselves disappeared beneath their endless numbers. For 72 hours, space became a storm of light. Entire fleets vanished. Worlds trembled as weapons beyond imagination shook the fabric of space. Human dreadnoughts held the center. Kar assault carriers protected the flanks. Synth intelligence coordinated millions of ships simultaneously. Avari medical vessels rescued survivors even while under fire. No species fought alone. Every civilization protected another, exactly as Sophia had hoped. Even so, the Devourers kept advancing, for every enemy destroyed. 2 more emerged. Custodian calculated the odds. Current probability of victory, 3%. Admiral Marcus looked at Sophia. We're running out of time. She nodded. I know. Then Custodian spoke again. There is one final protocol. The chamber fell silent. My creators never intended their empire to become a weapon. It was designed to become a shield. Ancient star maps appeared. Thousands of hidden stations across the galaxy suddenly activated. No one, not even humanity, had known they existed. Together they formed an immense network surrounding the Milky Way. The stellar barrier, Custodian explained. It requires every major power source in the human empire. Marcus understood immediately. If we activate it, the empire beyond the rim will be destroyed. Custodian answered simply. Yes, every city, every orbital ring, every ancient megastructure inherited from the first builders, everything humanity had built upon that foundation. Gone. Sophia stared at the stars beyond the command deck. Her ancestors had crossed unimaginable darkness to build that empire. Generations had devoted their lives to it. It was humanity's greatest achievement. She closed her eyes, then smiled. My ancestor gave up Earth to save our people. She looked toward Marcus. Today, we give up our empire to save everyone. The activation command spread across human space. No one protested. No riots erupted. No governor refused. Instead, families gathered together to watch the stars. Children held their parents' hands. Scientists shut down laboratories. Engineers saluted their stations. Soldiers stood at attention. Every human understood. Home was never the buildings. Home was each other. Barrier activation. 10. 9. Across the galaxy, ancient stations awakened. Golden beams connected star to star. 5. The Devourers accelerated, sensing the danger. 3. Millions of allied ships held the line with everything they had left. 2. Sophia whispered softly. For Earth. 1. A wave of golden light expanded across the galaxy. It was silent, beautiful, like dawn breaking after an endless night. The barrier closed around the Devourer swarm. For a heartbeat. Nothing happened. Then the Crimson Tide simply stopped. Every Devourer ship froze. Their network collapsed. One by one, the monstrous vessels dissolved into harmless stardust. The silence that followed lasted nearly a minute. Then cheers erupted across every communication channel. The galaxy had survived. Months later, the cost became clear. The empire beyond the rim was gone. Its ancient cities had sacrificed themselves to power the barrier. Only Earth remained. The old homeworld, once abandoned and forgotten, became the capital of the Galactic Union. Not because humanity demanded it, because every civilization voted for it. This time, unanimously, a memorial was built in the center of Earth's capital. At its heart stood two statues. The first depicted Ambassador Elias Kane, smiling in the face of exile. The second showed High Chancellor Sophia Kane, extending an open hand instead of raising a weapon. Between them, carved into polished black stone, were words every schoolchild in the galaxy would one day memorize. Fear divided the stars. Hope united them. Years later, an elderly Sophia walked through the memorial with her granddaughter. The little girl looked up. Grandmother. Were the stories true? Sophia smiled. Which ones? That humans conquered the galaxy? Sophia laughed softly. No, we never conquered it. She looked toward the countless stars shining peacefully above Earth. We simply reminded it how to stand together. The child squeezed her hand. Above them, ships from hundreds of civilizations crossed the night sky, not as rivals, but as friends. The age of empires had ended. The age of unity had begun. And somewhere beyond the distant galaxies, the stars continued to shine, carrying the memory of the species that had once been banished, and chose to save the very civilization that had cast them away.